Buonasera a tutti amici, anzi
Buonasera.
buon pomeriggio a tutti amici.
E oggi
Calice
ragazzi
Nero.
alla grande.
Alla grande perché abbiamo un ospite molto speciale. Siamo anche noi stupiti e quindi chiamiamo in diretta
subito
Kyle from Incantation. Welcome Kyle.
Hello Kyle.
Calice Nero. Anche noi stupiti.
Welcome.
Quindi chiamiamo in diretta
subito
Kyle from sorry guys,
Hello Kyle.
I'm hearing the return of voices, so if you can check it out.
Subito.
Kyle from sorry guys,
Hello Kyle. Cosa sta succedendo?
A little bit of connection problem. We will fix it in a second.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm here all.
Sta succedendo?
No, c'è un ritorno di voce. Kyle, did you forgot the other some things going on, because I'm hearing myself double basically. No, c'è un ritorno di voce. Kyle, did you forgot the other some things going on, because I'm hearing myself double basically.
I don't really know. I don't really use this very often.
Okay. Please let me check something, and we will start the interview.
I don't really know. I don't really use this very often.
Ok ragazzi, ha aperto il video, aperto il video.
Sì, vabbè, sono cose che succedono.
Sì, ok ragazzi.
Ok.
Yeah, anything better? Now it's better. Yeah, basically a little bit of a little bit of latency. Okay.
Hold on, I can't hear you very well though.
Okay. C'è un po' di ritorno in
Is that better?
Okay, Kyle, can you hear us as before the live stream, or you can hear us well, bad? Let me check.
Well,
Kyle, can you hear us?
Yeah, a little bit. I had to turn my
as before the live stream, or you can hear us well, bad?
medium.
Okay.
Yeah, but I had to turn my.
Ok, basically, ok ragazzi, scusate perché c'è alcuni problemi tecnici che stiamo, e sento la mia, I'm hearing everything we are saying in background, so like doubling stuff and voices.
Same here.
E sento la mia, I'm hearing everything. We'll try to go on. Basically, I will turn off my mic. Basically, I think.
Quindi come possiamo risolvere questo problema?
Facciamo le domande, mutiamoci tutti e tre, facciamo le domande a testa.
Ok, allora partiamo subito. La prima domanda, appunto direttamente a Kyle. La domanda è la seguente: in poche parole, come si riesce il nome Incantation a farlo entrare, quindi a farlo penetrare all'interno di una pellicola horror, ma scatenando appunto l'euforia del death metal americano, che sono i capostipiti Gli Incantation, e quanto riescono a entrare all'interno del mood horror.
Okay, so he is willing to ask in which horror movie can you see Incantation staying in, be a part of, also because of the euphoria of the death metal that you're making, as you may be considered as some of the pioneers of the genre. The death metal that you're making, as you may be considered as some of the pioneers of the genre. The death metal.
It's really hard for me to hear the question because it's like doubling up. I can't hear it. I don't know what happened. It's really hard for me to hear the question because it's
okay. Kyle, did you have some earbuds near you? So maybe that's an echo problem.
Yeah, let me see.
Usually this thing can fix it. Meanwhile, I will say something to the guys here del Calice Nero. Allora ragazzi, alcuni problemi tecnici, nonostante abbiamo provato prima della diretta tutto, si sente tipo doppio, quindi non si riesce a capire nulla. Vi chiediamo di pazientare un attimo, perché è tutto live.
Ma sono
ragazzi,
cose le belle della diretta, sono.
Sì,
sono
sì,
cose
tutto
belle
live,
diretta,
tutto live, amici, tutto live. Stiamo aspettando che non si riesce a capire nulla. Vi chiediamo di pazientare un attimo, perché è tutto live.
Ma sono cose le belle della diretta, sono.
Sì, sì, tutto live, tutto live. stiamo aspettando che vi chiediamo di presentare un attimo. È tutto live, sono cose belle della diretta. Sì, tutto live.
I'm sorry, guys.
Come possiamo risolvere questa cosa? Let me mute a second the mic.
Ma cosa?
Ok.
Non ho
Alan,
capito,
Alan, scrivigli in privato se può utilizzare le cuffie, perché lui sente praticamente doppio, sente tutto doppio quello che gli diciamo.
Sono robe che succedono, dai.
Sì. Kyle, Alan is writing you on Messenger to check something to make this working.
glielo dici te, diglielo te direttamente.
Ce l'ho detto già. Basically, if you can connect your buds or headphones, probably the echo problem will be fixed. If you have something to wear earbuds or headphones to the computer, basically. And
Io gliel'ho mandato lo stesso.
if you can check if you have opened the YouTube link, be sure to stay only on StreamYard, because we think that we think that there is also opened the live stream in another tab too. So because we think that si sente sempre la voce.
Ok, ragazzi, stiamo cercando di risolvere questo problema, non preoccupatevi, ma sono queste le cose belle della diretta. Tanto adesso risolveremo tutto, non preoccupatevi. Comunque, ragazzi, vi dico già che ci saranno degli annunci a breve su altri 2 nomi veramente molto molto importanti, ma non voglio svelarvi nulla, perché diciamo che la suspense è la miglior cosa, e farvi rimanere sulle ortiche è la miglior cosa ancora. Oggi abbiamo niente poco di meno che Kyle degli Incantation, quindi ci ha fatto questo grandissimo onore immenso di avere appunto uno dei migliori batteristi nella chiave del metal. Allora, vediamo un attimino, abbiate pazienza ragazzi, ma ripeto, sono le cose bellissime della diretta, perché se tutto fila liscio è veramente noioso, se no non ci divertiamo tutti insieme.
Certo.
Ragazzi, ripeto, sono le cose bellissime della diretta, è veramente noioso, se no non ci divertiamo tutti insieme. Ragazzi, ripeto, sono le cose bellissime della diretta, quindi non so come usare gli auricolari. Mi hai sentito? Grazie.
Puoi provare a dirgli, aspetta, ti mando una cosa,
per favore.
te lo scrivo e te lo mando subito, ok? Così.
Ok. Tranquilli ragazzi, stiamo risolvendo il problema, abbiate pazienza, ma ripeto, sono le cose della diretta, quindi ci mancherebbe altro, ok? Come risolve questo problema, ok? One moment please. Allora, vediamo un po', ok, vediamo un attimino, e se passi a caricare la diretta è uguale, tanto non si risolve nulla.
Deve vedere se ha aperto in un'altra finestra il link di YouTube.
Ok, scrivimi tutto per favore,
sì.
Così glielo mando.
Così comunichiamo tramite Messenger direttamente, che se non riesce proprio a sentire.
Sì. Così risolviamo il problema.
Ti faccio il copia e incolla.
Vai, così. Ok, it's ok. Perfect.
Kyle, just we are communicating by Messenger.
Sì, a posto. Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that. It's something that is not your fault, of course, not our fault. It's something that it's about connection and microphones and internet stuff that basically are not depending on us.
Shit happens, let's say.
Yeah, shit happens, basically.
Meno male che c'è la tecnologia.
In ogni caso, mentre si risolvono questi problemi, ragazzi, scrivete le domande nei commenti per Kyle degli Incantation.
Allora, diciamo che c'è un qualcosa che sta bollendo in pentola. Se va tutto bene, sicuramente qualcuno di voi, nel mentre che sta guardando il Calice Nero, o gli viene un raptus di violenza inaudito, oppure succede che qualche ambulanza vi fanno qualche TSO sicuramente di urgenza. Non aggiungo altro perché
Aspetta, Alan,
veramente...
aspetta un attimo. Kyle, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Ma aspetta.
Is this better?
Better than before, or
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
We
it's fixed.
I had it open
Risolto.
in the Google.
no problem. No
Oh,
problem.
that's
No problem, because the problem can be two. The mic problem or internet problem that you have opened another tab with Google, but no problem, guys.
Yeah, okay. Now we start.
The show
Okay.
must go on, as someone say.
Un attimo, puoi riporre la domanda per favore, Adimer?
Certamente.
Okay,
Grazie mille.
finally we can start the interview.
Yes.
Again.
Yes.
Thanks, Kyle, for being here. It's a pleasure for us to host you in the Calice Nero, since we are very long-term fans of Incantation. So for us, it's an honor to have you here in our web show, with the hope that we can have a good chat together. So we will repeat the question of the Maestro, and we can start now officially the interview to Calice Nero of Incantation. Let's go. Yeah.
So the question was that if you have to put Incantation inside an horror movie to show the euphoria that is generated in your death metal, as you can see that you may be considered as one of the pioneers of the genre, what movie or which movie would it be?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. So first of all, do you know that I actually made a movie called After Party Massacre, and I put Incantation in it for this reason, because I wanted to bring extreme horror movies and extreme death metal together. Now, it's a low budget movie, you know, me and another buddy of mine did it, but you know, that was like in 2008, 10 plus years ago, 14 years ago now. But for a real movie, I mean, I'd put us in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because that's you know, that's just a classic that started, you know, help start the way. That movie's so brutal, and for a low budget movie, yeah, you can't go wrong with that. I put us in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Plus, I know that's John McAtee. That's one of his favorite movies too. So I think you know, subliminally or not, he pulled a lot of influences from that movie growing up. So if I had to pick one, you know, a lot of movies.
That's great. That's great. Praticamente ha detto che se dovesse mettere gli Incantation all'interno di un film horror, appunto, lui ha scelto Texas Chainsaw Massacre come film, perché comunque dice film low budget, che comunque è molto brutale, come si suol dire, quindi appunto li ritiene adatti per questo. E appunto anche uno dei film preferiti di John. E
ha detto anche che ha fatto anche lui un
esatto,
film.
nel 2008 ha diretto assieme a un suo amico il film After Party Massacre, che è sempre sul genere, però ha detto che là invece è riuscito ad inserire gli Incantation come colonna sonora, e perché voleva appunto sfruttare questa occasione per poter unire appunto la brutalità dell'horror a quella del death metal che viene fatto.
Just because,
allora,
just because Incantation doesn't use horror movie, you know, snippets, you know, say like Mortician does and stuff like that, the band is definitely influenced from horror movies. I would say, you would think most death metal bands are. You know, growing up as a kid, you're watching it. It's extreme. I mean, and if you're creating music, it's just a natural, you know,
element.
Yeah, exactly. So it's fun. I think we've been asked that more in the past few years. I don't think people really made the connection between horror and Incantation as much. And I think just that's what led me to want to, you know, make a little horror movie, a little slasher. And that was fun. You know, it's been way out of print, but it's pretty cheesy. I think you can find it on YouTube if anybody wants a good laugh. It helps if you're drinking a little bit, have a few beers, a little vino, and sit back and watch the splatter.
That's awesome. Praticamente ha detto che di per sé gli Incantation non vengono tanto collegati alla questione horror, come magari può succedere con band tipo i Mortician, eccetera, eccetera, però ha detto che di recente gli viene chiesto abbastanza spesso. Ha detto che comunque il death metal è comunque influenzato abbastanza da quella che è la scena horror, e che questo comunque è stato uno dei fattori che l'ha portato a dirigere un suo film. Ha detto che comunque appunto del 2008, quindi è ben fuori stampa, quindi non si trova, però ha detto che probabilmente su YouTube si riesce a trovare tranquillamente, eccetera. E ha consigliato di dargli un occhio, perché comunque è abbastanza cheesy, quindi molto divertente, nonostante sia uno slasher.
Perfetto. Allora, domanda a Margrave Anarca e poi Adimer. Vai.
Ok, io la dico sempre prima in italiano e poi in inglese. Io voglio chiedergli appunto la differenza che ha avuto Kyle quando è entrato nel 1994 e il percorso che ha fatto come batterista, e soprattutto la differenza, chiedendogli proprio l'approccio alle canzoni degli Incantation. So, Kyle, asking about your roots in the band, since I know that you joined in the 1994 as a drummer, I want to ask you the evolution of your drumming and yourself during the years, and also can you tell us about on making an Incantation song, the composition, the teamwork behind the Incantation, all the stuff behind the basically record the song, or I don't know, even if an album or an EP or just a single, how Incantation is working right now and in the past, back in the 1994.
Yeah, I think as far as the creating the music process, I mean, it's pretty much the same from when I met John as it is now. Like when I joined him in '94, like you mentioned, and we started creating music. John writes a lot of riffs. He's got a lot of music. He's got a lot going on in his head, but it only works with the people that you're writing and you're creating with. It has never been just the John McEntee show where he's like, this is my song, this is what we're doing, this is how I want it. It's never like that. It's a teamwork, it's a group thing. Everybody brings stuff to the table. When I did join, it was just he and I, because we had nobody else in the band that was creating and contributing to the music. So all the earlier stuff, the first EP, the whole Diabolical Conquest record, Daniel brought a little bit to the table on Diabolical, but that John and I wrote majority of all that, and then we wanted, other members to contribute. So as we went on, once we got Joey Lombard Fingers, he actually started contributing. So Blasphemy was still John and I, and then once we did like Primordial and Decimate, Joey was contributing. But now, once we got Chuck Sherwood, and then when we had Alex Books, all great players, all writes great music, and we just work together. John sometimes will have a couple riffs, and we go with that, or we might have one, or we'll sit in the studio here and we'll be working on one thing, and he's like, "Oh, hold on a second, I got this," and we'll spend the whole rest of the weekend building another song together. You never know. So that's the beauty. That's and sometimes it comes quick, sometimes it takes a long time, and we're never on a time schedule. It's always however long it takes to make the right song. And then when it comes to the album, it's the same thing. We look at it as a whole. It's got to start to finish. It's got to flow. It's got to be teamwork. Everybody's got to be happy with it. I love the writing process, and the end results always end up being happy with. And then especially now, wasn't until we brought Chuck Sherwood in where the vocals really became a part of the music as well. I can't speak for the vocals on the first two records, but once I joined, it was never up front. It was always the secondary. We're focused on the music, and it's like, oh, now I got to put words in there. And John was writing them. I'd write a few, not a very good song, lyricist.
Okay.
And but Chuck brought a whole new element because he loves to write. He's got all these stories, and it's got to be great for the fans to read along. And now it's a story. It used to just be fuck Christ. It was just all blasphemy. I don't know. Can I swear on this? I guess I didn't ask, but so now it goes much more depth. It's a lot deeper. And then so for my drumming, before I joined Incantation, I'd never done a blast beat. That's just funny. So like I came from like thrash metal, speed metal, just hardcore, real aggressive, like the music that I was playing. I loved Dave Lombardo. You know what I mean? I just wanted to fucking destroy a drum kit. That was my thing. And then I liked Incantation. I can't say it was my favorite band, but there was a lot of bands in the early '90s. It just got flooded. So it was just another band that, oh, this band's great, But I grew up in Cleveland, so I'm living in Cleveland, and mutual friends of Incantation, was John and Craig and Jimmy and all those guys. When John was going to leave Jersey and put a new band together, my buddies recommended me, and John came to see my band at that time, Escalation Anger. And though I wasn't playing the Incantation style at all, he was like, wow, that's what I want. I want that aggressive. I was always just a go-getter. I just, whatever it took to get the job done. And he could see that. So I had to go to another friend of mine and be like, hey, Incantation asked me to play drums, but I don't know how to fucking play that. And, at that time it was, the Golgotha record. I have it on a cassette. It's not the best, mix. So it was really hard to understand what Jim Rowe was playing. So I had a really hard time trying to figure out even what the drums were and then learn how to play that. So but I was young, early 20s. So I was on fire, like I'll figure it out. And then, so I think for the first few years, I was just trying to recreate what Jim Rowe was doing, and then once me and John started writing, which wasn't that much longer after. I guess I joined 94. By the end of 95, going into 96, we were already writing. Because I think we put that promo out. 1996 promo had 4 songs. I don't know. I just went with whatever was natural for me.
Like a powerhouse style, basically. A lot of power, and so your approach is like primordial in kind of way.
Yeah.
So, and I just want to add something before translating the question. What do you think about this new wave of death metal drummer, just like soft style? What can an old school guy can learn from the new school, and what the new school have to learn? Because I think that a lot of soul is missing right now in the death metal.
Absolutely.
What do you think about?
These really fast new drummers. I mean, it's talented, of course, but when there's no power and there's no feeling behind it, for me, it loses everything. It's just, hey, look what I can do. I think, my opinion, and a lot of drummers do it. They take that and then apply some aggression to it, and but I think a lot of them, that's all they want to do. They're fine with just, and turn the triggers up so you can hear it. And I don't know. I come from a way different school. Someone like me, it would be nice to learn how to do that. I just don't care to, I mean, plus that'd be a lot of work for 50-year-olds to start learning how to hyper blast all that. You guys obviously here know what my limits are, you know what I mean? And I do a different kind of blasting, that. And Jimmy Rowe always did the downbeat blast. I bring that kind of Pete, Sandal, early Scum Napalm. It's just back and forth, 1 foot, you know what I mean? And it was never about speed. It's following the riff, whatever feels right, you know. So
Okay.
I don't know what I could say to offer to any new drummers except you know, you've got the talent. Obviously, there's a large, you know, there's so much more to learn. Every day you can learn something from any kind of drummer, really, you know. You know, my you know, I still learn from John Bonham, you know, and you know, all of my roots, you know. I'm
Yeah.
old hard rock heavy metal guy. You know, apply some of that stuff. You know, you never think that, oh, you know, John Bonham's doing, how's that going to help me in death metal? Well, you haven't fucking listened to it very well, because there's a lot you can learn from the old school drummers.
Yes, there is a lot of things that basically people is learning even after years and years and years of music from that period of time. In
Yeah.
fact, John Bonham is one of the holy grail drummers that we got here, and
Yeah.
we cannot be like him. And
Yeah.
I don't think that his son is pretty good at drums. I saw some clips, but John Bonham is John Bonham. Nobody can
exactly.
replace him.
Yeah.
Okay. Just before going forward, let me translate this. A lot of information you got. No, thank you.
Talk a lot.
No, it's cool because we have a lot of information to transmit, articulate to the people. So it's not the same boring interview,
Sure.
blah 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 stuff. We talk about music and feeling, and also how the music can be learned or mastered in ourselves in a kind of way that is different than nowadays. So basically, it's really cool what you said. So let me translate for the people here in Italy, and we go further to Adimir's question. Ok, ragazzi, allora abbiamo parlato dello stile di batteria e del processo di composizione. E praticamente lui dice che è lo stesso processo di quando è entrato nel 1994. John è quello che partoriva tanti riff, c'è stato tanto teamwork assieme, è una cosa da gruppo, ognuno portava sul tavolo qualcosa. Anche se nel primo periodo erano maggiormente lui e John a comporre. Anche Joy ha contribuito, ma quello che ha dato una spinta incredibile agli Incantation è stato Chuck Sherwood, che è il bassista, che dal 2008 appunto, e lui ha dato più input per quanto riguarda le liriche e le tematiche. E sostanzialmente è iniziata come una cosa da band, quindi il processo compositivo durava molto di più rispetto ad altre band, dove magari lui ha detto che c'erano persone che davano la canzone finita e si riarrangiavano insieme. Però questo faceva in modo di appunto vedere la situazione, di avere un quadro completo, e pure se ci mettevano tanto tempo loro erano tutti quanti soddisfatti. Poi, parlando del batterismo, lui ha parlato che non ha mai suonato blast beat, il suo punto di riferimento è Dave Lombardo, era più un batterista hardcore, thrash metal, insomma non aveva mai imparato a fare un blast beat, tant'è vero che quando gli Incantation lo hanno visto con la sua vecchia band, lui, dato che non aveva mai suonato queste cose, ha cercato di sentirle da un demo che gli avevano passato, ma potete immaginare, senza YouTube, senza avere una cosa visuale, come sia difficile. Infatti lui ha imparato tutto da un amico, dice, perché era difficile appunto capire cosa si stesse veramente facendo. Quindi poi lui ha imparato vari blast beat, ma non era mai sulla velocità, più quanto su cosa serviva per la canzone. Quindi lui ha imparato anche molto dai Napalm, per adesso Napalm Death, con un pedale solo, pedale singolo. Poi abbiamo parlato anche della differenza tra batteristi moderni e batteristi old school, dove nei batteristi moderni, per quanto siano talentuosi, manca quell'animo, e lui come punto di riferimento ha gli anni 70 e John Bonham, che è uno del sacro graal dei batteristi rock. E poi contate che tutti i feel 2-2, 4-2 sono tutti da lui. Lui dice non è che ascolti John Bonham e impari il death metal, ma devi ascoltarlo per avere un'ispirazione, perché dice ancora dopo tanti anni è così influente. Ok, esatto. Ok, let's pass to the word to Adimir for his question.
Ok, praticamente stavamo parlando prima nei retroscena, nei dietro le quinte, che lui appunto nel 2018, per chi non lo sapesse, ha smesso la sua attività live assieme a loro, e ci ha accennato al fatto di aver visto qualche giorno fa, un paio di giorni fa, diceva, gli Incantation però da un punto di vista di pubblico, e volevo chiedergli appunto come ha raggiunto il fatto di trovare un batterista turnista che potesse riempire le sue scarpe, diciamo così, e come si sente a stare dall'altra parte, perché appunto ne abbiamo accennato prima, però sarebbe bello vedere che ne possa parlare con tutti, insomma.
E poi lo condividiamo con tutti quanti voi. Quindi mi raccomando,
Esatto.
ragazzi, scriveteci perché anche Kyle vuole rispondere alle vostre domande.
Mi
Prego,
raccomando,
Okay,
progetto.
my question is, we were talking earlier before the show started that you stopped your gigging with Incantation in 2018. I don't want you to explain why you took this decision, but I would rather know, or we would rather know, how you came up with picking up a session drummer to fill your shoes, and how do you feel about seeing Incantation live from people's perspective rather than just a musician, as you said earlier that a couple days ago you got to see them for the first time also.
Yeah. So, yeah, it just real quick. I know you said you didn't want an explanation, but real quickly, I just I couldn't do the long touring anymore. It just because I run a business at home, and it was just getting to be too much. And so yeah, so Charlie, so we found Charlie Coyne. I put out a little post saying that I was going to retire just from live touring. I still do weekend shows. I still have other bands. We can get into that. I still play a lot. I'm just not doing the long tours. And so Charlie Coyne sent a video in, and it was great. He nailed it. John went out, practiced with him, and so this led to he is the full-time live touring drummer. So this did take place in 2018. Of course, there was a year and a half where no tours happened. So I just got a chance 2 days ago to go see them live. So first of all, I'm sitting there and I'm watching, and I'm like, I've never seen John McEntee do vocals, as a fan in the crowd. I've watched plenty of videos, so it's not like I've never seen from that point of the stage, but never live. So it was definitely interesting, and damn, the band really does put on a hell of a show. I've known John for a lot of years, and it's easy for us to joke with one another, and we do little cheesy things on stage. But when you're standing on the front, you don't see all that from the drum kit. I know there's little things, but it's a pretty damn brutal metal show, and so it was really cool. I really enjoyed it. And then, of course, watching Charlie, it's the first time. And I surprised those guys. I didn't tell them I was coming. It's a couple hours drive away, so they didn't really think that I would show up. And so I did. And young kids, so I wanted to fuck with them a little bit. And I stood on the side of the stage for a few songs. And, and you could tell he was like, oh, shit. Even though he's an amazing drummer, he's got nothing to worry about. That kid is a chameleon. He's ultra talented. He does deliver the feeling. That's why we went with him. He understands the feeling that Jim Rowe had. He understands the feeling that I brought to these songs, to the music, and he does an amazing job. And he did a great job that night. I know he does a great job every night. Of course, when we got done, he was like, I'm just glad I got that over with. I've been, waiting to see when was the show that I was going to, you were going to sit there and eyeball me down. He's like, I messed up this, and that. And it's like, no, you didn't, man. You did fine. Everybody, be a little bit nervous. So that was really cool. So I'm glad to see he's going to live on the road. He's going to tour the rest of his life, or as long as the band can, and that's what's great. And being that, and I had 25 years or whatever jamming with him, I didn't want my departing have an effect on the band moving forward. I would have kept doing it, but it was just becoming more and more of a struggle. And so I'm just glad I found him. We have solid, Luke's been in the band for a long time. He's on guitars now. Chuck's still in the band. Chuck hasn't been able to always do the live touring either. So it's kind of same situation. He does what he can. I've just decided I'm not going to cherry pick. Like I did retire in 2018, but then I went ahead and did like the 70,000 tons of metal in 2020, right before the COVID. And then, but after that, I thought, I'm not going to do that to the kid anymore. Let him, he's put the time in. I'm going to let him do all the shows, all the touring that he wants. And, you know, I still have Shed the Skin. I have a band called Perdition Sec. I play with Estuary. I'm a weekend warrior now.
Ok, praticamente ha detto che ha smesso di suonare live con loro per quanto riguarda i tour grandi, quindi non diciamo i cosiddetti one-off o comunque le robe da weekend, diciamo. Questo perché gli portava via troppo tempo e soprattutto col fatto che ha un altro lavoro, lui è proprietario di un'agenzia di costruzioni e appunto si è ritrovato a dire devo mettere da parte qualcosa. Charlie Corin è il batterista che ora lo sostituisce per quanto riguarda appunto i grandi tour ed è stato comunque scelto dopo svariate prove che hanno fatto assieme, video, comunque un'audizione molto ampia, chiamiamo così. Per quanto riguarda il fatto che sia andato a vederli appunto qualche giorno fa, la band non sapeva neanche che sarebbe andato, quindi è stata una sorpresa anche per loro, perché appunto sono 2 orette di strada e si è presentato là. Quindi da un punto di vista di fan non ha mai avuto modo di vedere come suonano dal vivo, però ha detto che comunque sia Charlie che tutti hanno fatto uno show fantastico. Questo perché comunque c'è un ottimo feeling anche proprio dal fatto che comunque si conoscono da 20 e passa anni, e ha detto che comunque quello che ha visto fatto da Charlie appunto dal vivo è stato fantastico, perché lui dice che ha dato il feeling giusto alle canzoni, che appunto come dicevamo anche prima è quello che a lui importa principalmente rispetto al resto. E comunque ha detto che essendo il novellino del gruppo si divertiva a percularsi tra di loro molto, molto serenamente. Questo oltre anche al fatto che comunque anche sul fatto che loro quando sono sul palco magari si scherzano un pochino a vicenda, quando sei dall'altra parte non lo vedi, quindi è stata tutta una roba molto potente, molto pesante, diciamo. E anche a fine show, parlando lui con Charlie, oltre appunto ai perculi vari che dicevo prima, c'è stato un momento di Charlie che gli diceva: no guarda, so che ho sbagliato questo, questo e questo, e lui gli dice: no guarda, sei andato divinamente, quindi non preoccuparti di niente. E dice appunto batterista fantastico che si adatta a tutto, e comunque questa scelta di per sé di lui di andarsene non è stata una scelta comunque facile, perché non voleva ci fossero scazzi, fatemi passare il termine, all'interno della band. E comunque diciamo che la stessa situazione, comunque simile, è quella per quanto riguarda Chuck, il bassista, che comunque anche adesso hanno un bassista ogni tanto turnista e appunto sono più o meno sulla stessa barca, però comunque se la vivono molto serenamente, perché lui comunque in studio quando fa spettacoli del weekend appunto li fa molto serenamente, e quindi è comunque sereno, sono amici comunque. E ha detto che comunque l'ultima roba grossa che ha fatto da un punto di vista di tour, diciamolo così, è stato il 10,000 Tons of Metal, e e, dopo basta, praticamente ha detto no, non riesco a fare più queste cose, anche comunque dopo un bel po' di anni, insomma è capibile.
Ok,
So
prima
from
di
this live stream,
porgere-
we're saying that basically Kyle ate dogs.
Prima di porgere la mia domanda, diamo spazio un attimo a Gaetano
A
Ferro.
Gaetano. Allora,
Ciao
Gaetano
Gaetano,
is
ben
asking
arrivato.
about your passion from horror movies, since he saw on the background the posters that you have. So basically, there is some Italians horror movie or even other director that you like. He says about Fulci, and you have some names to say to us about your passion for horror movies.
Yeah, as you probably noticed, I mean, I collect movie posters from all over the world. So, and I do these front-loading frames, so I can change it out all the time. And so I just happen to have a Fulci theme going on right now. So, which obviously I like that. But I mean, put me on the spot. I don't remember all my Italian directors. I mean, but you know, you got. I love Italian. I mean, Italian horror cinema. There's something special about that. So much different than American horror. I love it all. That's
It's difficult to pick one that is your favorite, basically.
Yeah. It's hard. I mean, I can probably pick favorite movies, but favorite directors. I mean, I'm a huge John Carpenter fan.
Okay.
You know, for American, I guess, but you know, doesn't. I mean, but Texas Chainsaw Massacre is one of the greatest movies ever made. So that's, you know. Then you got Tobe Hooper, but you got like Diamano, you know, for Italian. You know, of course you got
Argento, I think too.
Yeah, of course you got Argento.
Yeah, of course.
And yeah, so yeah, that's my getaway. You know, just try to get an hour and a half, 2 hours in the evening, and just fall into a horror world, watch a movie. You know, takes my daily stress away.
With our movies, of course. Ok, let me translate this to Gaetano. Allora, Gaetano, a lui piace un po' di tutto. Infatti lui, come puoi vedere, I make the zoom on Kyle's screen, ha tutti i poster dietro di lui, che cambia continuamente, perché comunque a lui piace variare. Dice, a livello di italiani, ok, Dario Argento, Fulci, però lui non sceglie più i registi, ma i film. E poi ha citato anche John Carpenter, che è uno dei preferiti. Lui piace proprio guardare gli horror di sera per togliere lo stress. Ok, so let's go to the Maestro here, because he wants to make for you a special question. Prego, Maestro.
Allora, questo appunto è il film appunto di Fulci, quando lo vedete un pochettino, quando lì c'è appunto
The Touch of Death.
Ruppe lo specchio. Questo film quanto si addice all'album 1998 degli Incantation, il primo disco che Calice Nero ha creato con la batteria? Quanto riescono queste due situazioni, questo film e l'album appunto Diabolical Conquest, riescono a influire, a confluire e a mischiarsi tra la batteria, questa situazione horror, ma un qualcosa di più particolare.
So he is asking, seeing the movie he showed you, don't remember the English name of it, so pardon me. How can it be connected to your first Incantation release, or the first full length back in 1998, Diabolical Conquest, where you've played drums on? How they can be connected, and in which way specific?
How the Diabolical album can be connected with that particular film or horror in general? Well, because that's known as Touch of Death in the U.S. I don't know if that particular one. To be honest, so with Diabolical, that you know. Yeah, a lot of those songs, and that particular song, Impending Diabolical Conquest, I think was the first song that John and I wrote together even. We just didn't release it until, well, no, it went on the promo earlier. But I can't say like there's any songs that are drawn from any particular movie. It's just, it all just comes from inside. Like you watch these movies, you have these feelings, you have these thoughts, you play music, the same thing. It just comes out of you. And maybe John would be able to answer better, but I don't know if there's ever a particular song or riff that came from a particular movie. It's just it's just as a whole, you know. And I have to rewatch that too. I have not seen that one. El Cliver, he's always Fulci's one of his favorite go-to actors. Yeah, and plus around Diabolical. So fortunately for me, we wrote those songs, 96, 97. In 98, like I was enjoying life a little bit too much and doing a little bit of partying and, and so some of that recording session, I was a little messed up. And unfortunately, I think my performance is not the best on that record. It could be a lot better, but people seem to like it. And all these years later, it is what it is. I don't care. But yeah, that's a whole. The recording process for Diabolical Conquest, that's a whole other interview within itself. Me and Don has talked about it many times, but there's a lot of stories, and just with Daniel Charles, at that time in the band, he was drinking a lot, I was partying a lot. We about drove John mad. But, so I can't say we watched any horror movies in the studio because we're too busy partying and trying to record music.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Praticamente ha detto che intanto quando Alice ruppe lo specchio negli Stati Uniti è conosciuto come Touch of Death, il tocco della morte, diciamo. E ha detto che per quanto riguarda il collegamento tra Diabolical Conquest e il film, appunto, di per sé non c'è una cosa specifica che possa collegarlo, che sia una canzone, un riff, ok, ma nell'insieme comunque può essere collegato, perché comunque sono tutti appassionati dei film horror, eccetera eccetera, all'interno del gruppo. E detto che comunque la prima canzone che a memoria sua, dopo spiegherò anche perché, che è stata scritta per l'album, appunto, è Impending Diabolical Conquest, che però è uscita prima nel promo che del 96. E però appunto John potrebbe rispondere meglio a queste domande, perché comunque l'album è stato scritto nel periodo 96-97 e ha detto che per quanto riguarda quel periodo, fino anche a includere le registrazioni dell'album, sono state abbastanza inebriate, nel senso che facevano molta festa, quindi bevevano, facevano cose, eccetera, e che ha detto sbocciavano, e quindi appunto di per sé c'è tutto quello che è successo nel periodo delle registrazioni è abbastanza offuscato. Però comunque ha detto che ci sarebbe un'intervista a parte da fare per raccontare cosa è successo, perché ci sono tantissime storie riguardanti questo. E questo principalmente, nel senso che appunto di per sé non hanno guardato nulla pieno l'album, ma tutto un insieme li ha portati a quello.
Ok, perfetto. Allora, Margrave,
se hai una domanda sempre collegata alla questione horror, la faccio fare a te, se no vado io. Se collega, ok. Chiediamo una piccola curiosità a Kyle. So Kyle, Metal Archist says that you were the subject and you performed the drums on the Anal Kant song Kyle from Incantation as a mustache. How can describe this experience?
It was definitely an experience. So as many of you probably know, Incantation and Anal Cunt had done a lot of tours together in the early and mid 90s. I got to be pretty good friends with Seth. He would actually stay at my house a lot, and especially if we were touring, he'd come in a few days early, maybe stay a few days. So, but anyways, he and I just drinking and doing drugs in my house, and he was just playing on an acoustic. he would always just fuck around, I mean, look at his songs. Everything's just, funny and joking around. And, and, he just started spitting out those words, and it's just a Venom riff, really, you know what I mean? Like Venom, the creator, so he's like, you're going to come to Boston. I'm recording the next record, in a few months, blah, blah, blah. You got to come up, play on my record. I'm going to do this song. And like, yeah, whatever. Just thinking it's drug talk, and, calls me, whatever, a couple months later and get your ass up to Boston, which is a long, like 8-10 hour drive. I'm in Ohio and Boston, it's far. And I'm like, come on, wait, you're out of your mind, no, come on, you come up. And we had a mutual friend as well. And, grab Brian. And I'm like, well, I have a buddy in town too, from out of town. I'll bring him. So we made a road trip. We went up there and we had never rehearsed, just sat down and it was, it was very easy. Just played it. It was like, okay, that's a wrap, and then so I stuck around. We all stuck around, and we do backing vocals all over that record. My voice is all over that record. It's pretty cool. We had a fun time. You know what I mean? I mean, to experience it, to be in the studio for an anal cunt record, for me, that was a bigger experience than the song. And again, this was in in 97, I think. 96, 97, I was partying a lot those days. So a little bit's kind of blurry too. And then, so we get back home and then he told me, he's like, I want you to do a spoken word part. So I get back home, whatever, a couple days later, and I'm sick. I have the flu or probably just hungover from partying. And I'm laying in my bed and he's like, I want you to do I'm Kyle from Incantation, over the phone. I'm like, what? And so I did. And so that's me laying in my bed talking on the phone doing this is Kyle. I can't remember what I said. I must have something like that. And it's funny, a lot of my friends are like, what? Why would you do that? That's like career suicide or something. I'm like, no, it's not. It's fucking fun. You know what I mean? I had a good time. And now, holy crap, all these years later, there isn't a show that goes by where somebody doesn't chant that or ask for it. You know what I mean? And I get it in every interview and it's fun, I mean, I know a lot of people have different visions of Seth, Seth can get kind of violent and, do some things, but my relationship with him was great. He was a great guy. He was a very caring guy. He's a fun guy. We wouldn't have toured together, wanting to tour with them if it wasn't. We always had a great time. There's some moments where, I mean, he got a lot of fights. I'm not a fighter. He got his ass kicked a lot. That's his thing or was his thing, so it was fun, but that's there isn't much more to that. That's pretty much the story. There's other stories with that. Like his dad's a cop and my buddy that came up with us, he got real paranoid because he had never done like the kind of drugs we were doing. And so I called Seth. I said, hey man, what about having your dad scare the hell out of my buddy, So when we got there, his dad came to the door in full police officer uniform, said, Mikey Bruce, we're looking for you. Holy fuck, why? So that's the kind of cool pranks and jokes that he would do. We had that kind of relationship. And some fun stuff, good times, man. So when people do ask, the song's cheesy, but it helps me remind of the good times I had with him, especially now that he's been no longer with us for a while, and so it's a good
cool
time.
that you share some memories with us. Basically, a lot of people can have misconception about those projects those days, but you lived it in the first person, so you can share a little bit of set memory with us, just to have fun partying and also this crazy stuff that I cannot even imagine you record your spoke part in a flu lying in the bed. It's really crazy to do that. Okay,
a lot of people don't realize that I actually played drums on that. I think they just heard the song, but maybe not the record and see that I'm credited for it, And so I think
you also play the drums, do some back vocals, and also that infamous spoken part. Really crazy, yeah. Okay. Before going on for the word, I will. There is a question from Gaetano here in the comments, but I will translate this because we have great piece of history to share with you.
Okay.
Ok, allora come ben sapete Kyle è stato il soggetto, ma anche il soggetto nel senso il messaggio principale del brano Kyle degli Incantation ai baffi, insomma, SM Stage. Lui ha detto che ha registrato con Ian Alcant perché loro stavano sempre insieme, avevano diciamo dei pomeriggi particolari di utilizzo di sostanze varie, ma comunque avevano un'amicizia molto forte perché hanno fatto anche molti tour insieme, quindi semplicemente lo posso dire, cazzeggiando sui divani è uscito sto riff tipo Venom, che poi è diventato il pezzo che tutti quanti chiedono a Kyle come è nato, tutti quanti è diventato tipo una sorta di meme sto pezzo praticamente. E sostanzialmente lui racconta come qualche mese dopo questo delirio, diciamo, che hanno avuto insieme, è stato chiamato da Seth a Boston dicendo prendi un amico in comune che avevano, venite qua, registrate, fate questa cosa. E quindi loro hanno fatto questa sorta di viaggio insieme con degli amici, sono andati a casa di Seth, poi hanno registrato non solo la batteria su questo pezzo, ma Kyle fa anche da backing vocals su altre parti di quest'album dove c'è questa canzone in particolare. E lui racconta che praticamente erano giorni di delirio. Se ho capito bene, qua Francesco mi può aiutare, il padre di Seth Putnam era un carabiniere, un poliziotto, e quindi hanno fatto lo scherzo che mentre loro si stavano facendo come la merda, detta proprio in francese, gli hanno fatto bussare il padre gli hanno fatto tipo fare lo scherzo, queste cose qua. Lui dice Seth può essere una persona controversa, che le persone non capivano chi fosse e che era un alone di mistero, però lui dice noi ci abbiamo vissuto, abbiamo fatto tante cose insieme, quindi sappiamo che nonostante tutto lui era una persona genuina, un cazzeggiatore seriale, come diremmo noi, e una persona molto tranquilla rispetto a tutte le, diciamo, le dicerie che ci stavano in giro. E c'è esatto, Analcant, ma anche dei Vaginal Jesus, mi sembra.
Sì, ho capito.
Kyle, Seth as both Analcant and another band, Vaginal Jesus, something like that. You know that?
Yeah.
Okay. Another funny
subject,
band,
right?
another funny band. Hope that YouTube do not ban us. Ok, so una band molto particolare perché anche dall'immaginario riconosci Alan? Alan è capito. We are a fan of Anal Khan, so basically we are enjoying that.
Yeah.
And, non troppo fan, però la storia la conosciamo. In ogni caso, diceva, ci sono tante dicerie, ma lui comunque gli è piaciuta tanto questa cosa, proprio di stare insieme, di fare questo disco, di cazzeggiare. E poi c'è una chicca particolare. La parte che sentite nel disco dello spoken, praticamente, l'ha fatta Kyle con la febbre a letto, parlando a telefono, praticamente. E quindi è nata così, c'è il delirio di questo disco e di questa canzone, è tutto è proprio un delirio, cioè parliamoci chiaro, chi è che si fa 10 ore di macchina per arrivare dall'Ohio a Boston, registra, cazzeggia, fa situazioni particolari, perché poi comunque è sempre lo stesso periodo inebriante che abbiamo parlato prima, e quindi diciamo che un po' in esclusiva per il Calice Nero abbiamo questa mini storia riguardante questa esperienza di Kyle, che ringraziamo tanto, e passiamo dopo il cazzeggiamento seriale alla domanda. Se mi sono scordato qualcosa, ragazzi, ovviamente voi potete cliccare il pulsante CC per avere le traduzioni automatiche. Noi cerchiamo di tradurre quante più cose possibile, ovviamente prendiamo anche appunti, eccetera eccetera. Però ovviamente potete capire che la traduzione in simultanea è un po' particolare da mantenere, quindi cerchiamo di fare il nostro meglio. Before going to the question of Vladimir, I want to ask you, Kyle, a topic that goes also from Gaetano here in the comments. It's asking about your favorite Incantation record before you joined the band.
Yep.
And your go-to albums that you listen nowadays, also outside death metal.
Yeah. Well, Mortal Throne and Nazarene for me, hands down. Because you got to figure it's only between Golgotha and Mortal. I mean, there's what's the record Dave Colrose did? I can't remember the name. Like The Chosen on it, but I don't count that one. I like that record, but out of the first two, Mortal Throne, Nazarene, it's so dark. My favorite Incantation style of music is the doomy stuff. Anyways, the doom into the mid-tempo stuff. That record's loaded with it, and the fact that the Craig and Jimmy had already left the band before doing Mortal Throne of Nazarene. And of course some of that stuff was already written and whatnot, but they pretty much sessioned back to do the record with John. Not with the intent of not sticking around. That's why I did the touring for Mortal Throne of Nazarene when I joined. But just something about that record. And to think that, it was kind of spur of the moment, some of the drum parts and some of the stuff as well. So that just shows like when those guys got together, what they could do, even in like they weren't getting along kind of, that was right at the, the kind of breaking up of those guys. But yeah, amazing record. And I've always wanted to do that record in its entirety and finally got to do it. I don't know, it wasn't all that long ago. We did it in, I think Germany. Shit, I'm pissed. I can't think of the guy's name that does the fest. But he requested, that was his favorite record, and he asked if we could do it. And of course, I wanted to do it, but it was a lot of work because some of those songs we never really played live. And so we got to do it, and it went over really well. And so it was pretty cool. I could have quit then. And I was like, yep. That was cool. Shit, what was the second part? The second part.
So what you want to listen now? What is your listening stuff now? Even outside the death metal.
Yeah, I listen to more hard rock and heavy metal than I do death metal, especially these days. I mean, when I do listen to death metal, I always seem to just go back to Immolation and Autopsy. Early Entombed. That's my go-tos on that. But I listen to Sabbath and Zeppelin and Priest and Fastway and UFO, Saxon. Those are my go-tos. But I also love I go to Candlemass and Solitude Eternus a lot. Like I said, I like the Ladumi and mid stuff. I throw on old the early Winter record. I think I like the more just hard rock tone. I mean, I always have, but I gravitate more to that these days. But and then but when Immolation puts out a new freaking record like this one right now, holy crap, it's so freaking good. So there's still a lot of good death metal out there. I don't know about newer bands. I don't know a whole lot of newer bands. I know like Mortification, I think, or I don't remember, but there's a couple, but I gravitate to the old stuff. What how was I just? Oh yeah, I actually like Zeppelin re-released, remastered all their stuff. So I had been picking up, and I just got this one in the mail yesterday to complete. I was like, yeah. So
basically, your go-to nowadays is to hard rock and the new wave of British heavy metal stuff.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
pretty much.
That's legit. I mean, I love old Van Halen too. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
the U.S. You can't go wrong those first couple of Van Halen records. And I guess a lot of the hair bands. I'll go to Doc and Rat a lot. Those first couple records are awesome. Again, you got to think that's stuff that also grew up on. So oddly enough, listening to all that created the death metal that you hear. Like my Shed the Skin band. Matt Sorg, who writes all the music or 99% of the music. He listens to tons of Plasmatics and Doc and UFO. And the end result ends up in this high thrashy death metal, in the vein of, early Autopsy and Carcass and, stuff like that. So it's, it's all of our surroundings, all this music, hard music that's been created all these years. You just naturally take the next level, And I think that's what you were saying, with like newer drummers now, that's just their natural progression is this super fast. Unfortunately, it's really light playing half the time, but that's the next level. I hope I might have mentioned earlier, I hope those kids take a step back and listen to the 70s music and the drummers and early 80s and stuff like that. And you'll see you can incorporate a lot of that into your style now instead of just copycatting Cannibal Corpse or Suffocation. You know what I mean? And
yeah, I know what you mean. Ok, let me translate that for Gaetano that is asking the question. Allora, lui come gli piacciono le parti più dummose, diciamo, dummeggianti, come possiamo dire, degli Incantation, mid-tempo. Lui ha parlato di Mortal Throne of Nazarene, l'album del 1994, come suo preferito ovviamente prima della sua entrata. E poi, scusatemi un attimo, ho dovuto togliere un commento a volo di un bot. Comunque, lui parla anche della questione che comunque a livello di ascolti adesso non gravita intorno tanto al death metal come prima. Lui parla degli Immolation come il suo gruppo death metal che quando escono adesso gli piacciono particolarmente perché fanno sempre dei dischi della Madonna.
Alex Box, scusate.
Ok, greetings to Alex Box of Immolation, by the way. From the Maestro. Lui dice comunque anche coi suoi vecchi gruppi come per esempio come si chiamava il gruppo? Aspettate, c'ho sulla punta della lingua. Shed Skin avevano molto influenza dall'AOR, comunque Adult Oriented Rock, Air Metal, New Wave of British Heavy Metal, Hard Rock. Ne parlavamo anche prima che molti gruppi di adesso secondo lui dovrebbero riguardare quel tipo di batterismo perché fondamentalmente dà molta più personalità. Comunque lui ha fatto anche delle menzioni sull'album degli Incantation del 94, sempre Mortal Throne of Nazarene, che in quel momento la line-up comunque stava cambiando, quindi ha avuto durante le registrazioni qualche problema, infatti non ha registrato tutto lui l'album, ha avuto comunque si sono comunque eseguite le registrazioni, insomma, e lui avrebbe voluto registrarlo per intero, perché comunque per lui è uno dei suoi album preferiti, tant'è vero che in un festival che lui non ricorda come si chiama, ma in Germania gli hanno richiesto loro proprio tutto il set, tutto l'album, quindi nella setlist tutto l'album, però molte cose non erano state programmate per farle live, quindi è sempre un po' particolare, però lui punta quello come situazione. E poi dice, al giorno d'oggi, tanto heavy metal, tanto hard rock, ha citato alcuni gruppi, Saxon, Dokken, UFO, eccetera, eccetera, dice anche da quelli c'è stata ispirazione. E poi lui ha fatto vedere che si sta ricomprando la nuova versione rimasterizzata delle Zeppelin e poi parla dei Van Halen come maggiore ispirazione. Ok, Adimir, you can go further with the next question.
Ok, allora io volevo chiedergli, perché per chi non lo sapesse, lui in questo momento si trova nel suo studio, che viene anche utilizzato per registrare tutto il materiale degli Incantation. Infatti anche sui crediti vari viene fuori che è Incantation Studios. Quindi la mia domanda è come funziona il processo di registrazione in quello studio, comunque in quell'ambiente, come si trova, come si sente? So my question is, since you're at your, let's say, home studio now, which is called Incantation Studios, how was the, let's say, recording process for every release you've made in there? Also, from, let's say, from a musical perspective and a technical perspective as well.
Yeah, so it was when we did Vanquish Vengeance was the first record, was the last record that I recorded in Mara's studio, Mara's recording compound, where I had done everything from Forsaken Morning up until that record. And the next record, that's the first one that we tracked there, and we sent the mix to Dan Swano. Normally we did everything with Bill Korecki for the Incantation stuff. We did everything with Bill Korecki at his studio. And then so after that was another Astron record, and I actually did the Astron records at Bill's as well. But Bill was getting out of tracking and this and that, so I had to find another studio. So a buddy of mine said, "Hey, I just tracked so and so's band. I can't remember, and or I think he did a Midnight record there." And I was like, "Okay, well, I'll go check that out." And I get there, and it's his house. Studio in his basement, and so we tracked there, and actually tracked the Shed the Skin 7-inch there. And after that, I thought, man, what? It's just in my buddy's basement, like, why don't I just do this myself, And I learned enough over the years just to be able to track my stuff. So yeah, from that point on, so what was the next in-cam record after that?
Basically, I was asking, how was the process of recording in general? How does it work in your studio? How do you feel recording in the studio?
I gotcha. Yeah, I mean, it is different. It's nice being able to have, no time restraints. It's comfortable. And basically now, yeah, we'll, John and the guys will come into town. We sometimes we write and then record, or sometimes we already have the stuff to record. It's a laid back process. I do miss, going to the big studio and like, okay, you better get it done. You got 1 day, you got 2 days, and now, yeah, it might take us months, but we'll track drums here, get the rough stuff, and then Incantation Studios, like, this isn't just Incantation Studio. It's actually, John does his guitars at home, a lot of them, leads will be done, different place. So it's kind of all of our own studios is one,
Okay.
Mine here, I just, like, on the Shed the Skin stuff, I just write Severn Studios,
So basically, this is just one branch of the Incantation Studios. Okay.
Branch one, the bigger branch.
The main one.
Yeah, so everybody kind of does, especially in these last few years, everybody kind of does their stuff at their own. John will go to a local studio to do his vocals. We do some vocals here. But John and I never lived close, so it's just convenience. And so now, yeah, we get everything tracked pretty much on our own, and then we send it to Dan Swano, and he does the mix, And I've been doing that for the Shed the Skin records. Same thing. I do the drums here. The other guys will do a studio close to home for them, and it's a different feeling now, but I'm used to it. I like the fact that I don't have to haul my drums around. Like, this is my studio kit. It stays up. I have a different drum set that I use for live. But this is the same one, and I can't see it that well, but that's the one I used to bring on tour. I've had this since '96, and but it just stays set up for the studio. It's not fully mic'd right now because our sound engineer has some of the mics right now for a project that he's doing. But actually, McEntee will be here in a couple weeks when the tour is over, and we got to finish drum tracking another record. We actually have a record done, but we're doing an all Doom record as well. So
that's great.
Yeah, so we got half of it done. I got a couple more tunes to do, and they're real long songs. So this one's it's a lot longer. When you got 10-minute song, holy crap, 10 minutes music is like, 20 hours of recording.
Just for one song.
Yeah. But it's something we've been wanting to do for a long time. And actually the last couple tracks that I have to record are tunes that we wrote in 2003 that we demoed, and we never used them. We saved them because we thought someday we're going to do an all Doom record. And now, what was that? Almost 20 years later, in 2003. Crap. Yeah, finally going to do it. So, so I don't know if I answered your question or not.
Yeah, you did. Praticamente ha detto che partiamo dal principio che quella là non è l'unico Incantation Studios che si vede. Quello a cui si fa riferimento come Incantation Studios è l'insieme di tutti i posti in cui vengono registrati gli strumenti quando non sono in uno studio effettivo, nel senso che lui registra la batteria, alcune volte la voce, le chitarre vengono magari registrate in casa dagli altri membri, le lead da una parte, eccetera, eccetera. Quindi quello è l'approccio che viene utilizzato principalmente per loro. Comunque dice questo è il branch principale degli Incantation Studios, perché poi appunto mandano a Dan Slano a mixare tutto e quindi
grande.
e quindi appunto sì, tra virgolette arrangia lui dopo. La questione di fondo è che comunque loro registrano in casa, diciamo, dal periodo di Profane Nexus, quindi dal 2017 più o meno, e gli è venuta questa ispirazione perché stavano registrando un 7 pollici all'epoca, non mi ricordo di per sé il titolo, e hanno registrato appunto nello scantinato di un loro amico che aveva lo studio costruito là, e avevano pensato, beh, è figo, cioè riusciamo a fare le cose comunque in casa, sfruttiamo l'occasione e iniziamo anche noi. Quindi più o meno quello è stato l'approccio utilizzato. Poi oltre a questo c'è anche di mezzo una questione di tempi, nel senso che non hai più in 2 giorni devi fare questo, in altri 3 devi fare quest'altro. Possono metterci mesi su mesi su mesi senza che nessuno gli rompa le scatole, nel senso. E oltre a questo poi possono anche godersela meglio anche proprio come persone all'interno dello studio. Poi di per sé ha registrato appunto questo, ma ha registrato anche Ashra, ha registrato anche tanti altri. Stavo dicendo che siccome gli Immolation adesso sono in tour, John dovrebbe rientrare da questo tour appunto tra un paio di settimane e appunto dovranno trovarsi là dove si trova Kyle adesso per registrare le voci di un progetto Doom che stanno registrando, e ha detto che anche solo per questa cosa, per questo episodio, gli va bene avere uno studio in casa, perché di per sé dice che con canzoni da una decina di minuti l'una, eccetera, eccetera, ci vogliono almeno 20 ore per averne una definita, e senza contar poi tutte le varie cose da sistemare eventualmente. Poi lui ha fatto vedere anche il suo drum kit, che è là alle spalle, che è quello che lui utilizza per lo studio, effettivamente, che comunque ce l'ha dal 96, che è là, rimane là, nessuno lo tocca, ne ho un altro di effettivo per fare live. Adesso, vabbè, mancano alcuni microfoni perché comunque un altro suo amico, sempre ingegnere del suono, glieli ha chiesti per un progetto a cui sta lavorando, e questo è quanto.
Poi magari ci chiediamo, gli voglio chiedere io a Kyle riguardo alla roba di batteria, quindi maestro, se è la domanda che volevi fare tu, se no ti lascio a te la parola.
Allora, no, io voglio ritornare proprio negli anni, appunto negli anni 90, quando Diabolic Conquest ebbe appunto un tour di promozione, questo veramente fantastico disco. Ricordo che appunto come supporter band c'erano Nile, Morbid Angel, Vander e The Failed, che appunto vengono, se non ricordo male, vennero aiutati da Robert Jench al basso, se non ricordo male. Però ci fu anche un episodio non bellissimo, appunto, se ci vuole raccontare appunto Kyle appunto e John McEntee al rientro, che sensazioni ha ancora Kyle da quel live, anche se è stato figo, ma allo stesso tempo anche un po' sfortunato, diciamo, tra virgolette. I fan come sono riusciti a interagire con la musica, appunto con l'arte del death metal, sponsorizzata, creata, meglio dire, creata appunto da Kyle Severn sul suo pattern di batteria. Ecco.
Okay, so going back at the times when Diabolical Conquest just released and you had to do the promotion tour with bands such as Nile, Morbid Angel, there was an unfortunate show, let's say, where you have to figure out some difficulties that happened there, and how did you manage to go on anyway with your things, and also how did the fans recepted the feelings coming from the Incantation album at that show, and if you want to talk about it in
Which show
little
was that?
detail. Che show era, Alan?
Non mi ricordo. Texas può essere? Al rientro del Texas.
Coming from Texas.
Può essere? Perché stiamo parlando di anni fa. Dallas, il tour era tra Dallas e Texas. Dallas in Texas, il tour.
On the Morbid Angel tour in '98?
Sì.
Se non si ricorda, chiediamoci l'impressione generale di quel tour, ragazzi.
Okay, so if you don't manage to maybe recall the actual event, can you even talk about the tour, how it went in general, and how did fans reacted to it, to the new release?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that happened on that tour. I'm sorry, I don't remember anything that happened at a particular Dallas show. If you can tell me what happened, I could try to remember. But yeah, that tour. So obviously, it was a big tour for us. You know, it started off as Morbid Angel headliner, Vader direct support, and Incantation, and then after maybe only a couple shows, Vader dropped off the tour. For whatever reasons, you know, I'm not going to get into that, but so they dropped off. We did the next couple shows as they looked for another replacement. At that time, you know, Nile was still fairly unknown, had just put the first record out. We had brought them out, like we knew of them earlier on, so we had brought them on tour a couple times prior to that. Because we've seen them there, we knew they were going to be a great band, especially that lineup they had there at that time. And then, so we suggested this band Nile, and so they, the agency, Morbid Angels management, which happens to be our management as well, agreed and was like, okay, yeah, we'll put Nile, which now is Nile's management. But so Nile then opened up on that tour. It was a great tour. Had a lot of things happen. Like, so there was Canadian dates, and like I'm not allowed in Canada. They've kicked me out so many times, so I had to like fly a friend of mine, drummer, in to do the Canadian dates while I sat, you know, in the U.S. and waited for those and come back. That was also the tour that Daniel, his band, The Chasm, got offered to play in the Milwaukee Metal Fest, which was also one of the stops on that tour. But he would have had to miss the Incantation show to do the Chasm show, because it's the same weekend, but a different day. It created some issues. And so that was his departure of the band. He chose to do the Chasm and not do the rest of the Incantor. So we had to call upon a friend to come up and finish vocals for the rest of the tour. I flipped the van, had a really bad van accident, but that was right after the tour. Destroyed all our equipment. I mean, I flipped it, and I went to the hospital. I slid on the highway. But somehow that tour still like really helped the band, even though that was also during my partying time, like I was saying. So I was messed up on a lot of nights. But a lot of people say they have good memories, and that was like the first time they've seen the band, and we sounded really good.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're being very forgiving, because it couldn't have been always that good.
So basically, what could have gone wrong actually did.
Sure. Yeah. And I remember there's some fun things too, like, you know, John left me at a show once because I didn't make our van call, you know, and so luckily Morbid Angel's bus was still there, so they let me, you know, ride with them to the next show. And then the next day they told John, never again is Kyle allowed on the bus. They weren't allowed. They're not supposed to be doing drugs on the bus, and I brought all these drugs, and everybody wanted to do them, but nobody was telling each other. So it was like, over here doing it over here. It's fun stuff, That's what Eric in the band. Yeah, a lot of cool stuff. Again, we're young, you know what I mean? I'm in my 20s, and we're on a pretty successful record. That was our comeback, because you got Relapse had some doubts in the band. A lot of people maybe doubted the band, after the first 2 records lineup changed, and but that was kind of like we had to show and prove that Incantation is still Incantation. You got John McAtee is #1 songwriter, and we can still do this. So we had a lot to prove, and still, despite all the issues that we had on the tour, it still ended up pretty successful. Other than the accident at the end really was bad, though. That's when I ended up taking time off the band, and that's when I got clean. I went to rehab, and I haven't touched drugs since '99. So
awesome.
that was the eye opener. Like, yeah,
did it.
Yeah. So yep, I never went back. Never touched after that. Yeah. Was any of that part of the Dallas show? I don't remember.
No, I just wanted to ask you. He wanted to ask you if you didn't recall the actual show, what happened there. If you wanted to talk about the tour in general as a whole, and that answered it. So thank you.
Okay.
Praticamente la faccio molto veloce. Vabbè, non si ricorda dello show, quello a Dallas, a cui faceva riferimento al Cattivo Maestro. Ha parlato in generale del tour, che è stato un delirio, in poche parole. Alcuni esempi sono il fatto che, ad esempio, i Vader hanno mollato quasi all'inizio del tour, quindi hanno dovuto chiamare un altro gruppo spalla. Hanno parlato con un management per far venire Nile, perché comunque era appena uscito il primo album loro, quindi erano freschi e hanno accettato, quindi sono venuti Nile. Poi, oltre a questo, sono successe un sacco di episodi, tra appunto il fatto che festeggiavano parecchio in quel periodo, non entro nei dettagli, e praticamente
è bannato dal Canada, Kyle.
È bannato dal Canada, quindi
Canada, yeah. Fantastic. Fuck their government. The fans are great, not the people, just their government.
Yeah, I don't want to enter into the details, but why you are banned from
So very simple, like a DUI, driving
under influence.
It's a more serious crime in Canada, and I didn't know that. So when we tried to go there in '94, they're like, no, you have a DUI. I had gotten one when I was younger. Like, no, you can't come in. Like, you got to go through all this paperwork. So we were like, we'll go to another border. Well, not thinking they knew, and they were like, you dumbass, we just told you can't go through. We have a computer system here, and so they put me in their jail for trying to come in after they told me no. And so this happened a couple times. So they eventually they kicked me out, which they said for life. And then all these years later, they started to lighten the borders, and I was able to get in, and then they shut me. And then another time, it's whoever's working the border, and they were like, "We told you you're never allowed in here," and so they made a big deal out of it again. So fuck Canada. I got in a couple times, but yeah, I'm never trying again.
You were talking about Canada borders, and your dog just got mad. For some reason.
Che cazzo te cade per il Canada?
The dogs hear the word Canada and they're ready to fucking.
Okay, so I will translate the question.
Yeah.
Praticamente, appunto, lui era bannato dal Canada perché anche adesso, anche se appunto hanno alleggerito i controlli, però ho raccontato il motivo per cui non poteva quantomeno più entrare all'interno della nazione. Praticamente si è ritrovato in guida in stato di ebbrezza e appunto loro in Canada prendono molto seriamente questa cosa, quindi gli hanno detto no, non puoi entrare la prima volta. Hanno detto vabbè, pazienza, proviamo da un'altra parte. Di là anche gli han detto guarda che abbiamo il computerino e ci dice tutto, e si è fatto un pelo di galera là, non roba ovviamente da anni, mesi, ok, e l'ha rimandato indietro. Questa cosa qua praticamente ha portato, per quanto riguarda il tour di cui stavamo parlando prima, a dover trovare un batterista che potesse farsi le date in Canada. Quindi è successo che quando dovevano andare in Canada lui se ne tornava a casa, dopo riprendeva, quindi era un po' un avanti e indietro tra queste cose. Poi ha raccontato che finito il tour stavano tornando indietro e ha fatto un bruttissimo incidente col van che avevano all'epoca.
Con John
E
McEntee?
no, quello dove era lui che stava guidando,
Ah.
dove c'era quello che stava guidando, e praticamente si è cappottato il van distruggendo tutta la strumentazione che aveva all'interno, e questo l'ha portato a ripulirsi da tutto quello che era il periodo di festa che avevano all'epoca. E poi ha fatto anche riferimento a un episodio molto divertente. A una data lui non è riuscito ad arrivare alla cosiddetta bus call, che sarebbe praticamente l'orario a cui tu devi essere per forza di cose presente sul bus che parte, e praticamente ha perso quella. Il bus dove c'erano appunto loro è partito lasciandolo là praticamente, e si è ritrovato a dover stare sul bus dei Morbid Angel, che era ancora là, per arrivare alla prossima data. La cosa divertente in tutta questa storia, oltre al fatto che poi gli hanno detto a John non fa più ste robe qua, è stato che appunto in quel periodo pieni di droghe fin sopra i capelli, e si è portato con sé un bel po' di droga, cosa che non era, diciamo, ammessa all'interno del bus dei Morbid Angel. Quindi tutti molto di nascosto volevano un po' alla volta farne uso. Quindi anche questo ha reso molto, molto simpatica la questione. Cioè, praticamente era una cosa che tutti volevano, nessuno ne parlava. E quindi appunto è stato, diciamo, un disastro dall'inizio alla fine.
Ok ragazzi, facciamo le ultime domande.
Last question for you, Kyle, before ending this live stream that is really funny, and we are a lot enjoying the time with you. So thank you again for being with us. I want to change topic and asking you about your drum gear, what you're using in the studio, mainly your drum kit, cymbals, sticks, heads, and what you can explain to us to find your own sound, because you are working a lot in the studio. So basically, I think that you try a lot of stuff for your kind of sound, and what kind of also mic you use for drum tracking, and basically all this kind of nerdy stuff behind the drums.
I mean, you'd probably be surprised that I'm not that like big tech nerdy guy. Like, I have the same Yamaha recording custom series drum kit. I've been using that same kit. In 1996, I bought it, and I've recorded every record I've ever done, well, other than that Anal Gun song, on this same kit. So my sound just comes from that drum set. I do put, like the Remo coated heads. I forget what they're called. Like ambassadors. I feel that the white coated ones have a deeper warmth to it. I use single ply in the studio and double ply on the road, because I used to take this kit on the road. now it's just single ply. And then my snare is the same snare. Yeah, it's also a Yamaha. I bought that in 96. Basically, I bought all this because in 95, all our stuff got stolen. Me and John, we got off a big summer tour, put our stuff in a storage, and somebody ripped us off. So I had to buy all new gear. But I know now I don't leave it anywhere. So I did add these rototoms just a few years ago. I always wanted to, and I got them for when I did the Estuary record. Some of the demo stuff that Ash had on there, his previous drummer had some rotos. I'm like, oh fuck, I've been kind of wanting to get rotos, so I've incorporated them now. Like there's another Incantation record that is tracked that's going to mix here real soon, which would be the next release. So I've got rotos on that. I got rotos on the Estuary, so very happy with that because I had rotos when I was a kid, but never for all those years. So, but yeah, so my cymbals, it changes all the time. As soon as I break one, I can never find that same exact sound again. But I use Zildjians for the most part.
Okay.
It changes from like fast crash to I got a couple medium thins up there now.
Okay.
I do have a pasty China, but actually I have to replace 2 of these before John gets here because recent gigs I just played, I realized I cracked them. My pedals, I've been using Access for I don't know, a little over 10 years now. I was a DW guy for the longest time, and then a friend of mine actually got Access to sponsor me or give me a free pair of pedals, which I didn't like them at first, but I did grow into them. Sometimes I kind of wish I went back to DW. I feel like maybe I don't get the power that I used to, but I like them. I'm not super picky. It's as long as it feels right. And I'm afraid of change. Like it took me 6 months just to go from the DW, slowly working those Access.
The DW was a chain driven pedal or direct as?
No, chain. So going from a chain to the direct was like the biggest,
I can feel this problem since I have my direct drive pedal in the closet right now. I'm using the chain. I usually go back and forth. So cymbals mostly Zildjian. A custom, you say medium thin, so not so heavy crashes.
Yeah, I like around a medium.
Okay.
Seems like a thin to medium. I have a heavier one.
Ragazzi, solo noi facciamo vedere la strumentazione in diretta.
I have a fast crash that I'll
and for the ride situation, use an heavy thick cymbal or just medium as
that's actually really thick, and I've had that ride since 96 as well.
The Z Mega Bell ride, I suppose.
Well, no, it's not.
No.
It's a rock ride.
Okay.
It's so long, I don't even look at it. And that's the only one that I've never broke. Now there's a groove where it sits on the stand. It's kind of naturally has a groove in it, but it never cracked. And I hit that fucker pretty hard. So it's and then a couple little splashes in there. They break, so I just replace it with whatever. As long as it sounds kind of in the ballpark of what I like, I go with it. I'm not super picky. And then I just record everything. I just use Pro Tools. I have a couple, I don't even remember what kind. Couple, how do they call these? Just the units.
Interface. The interface.
Interface. That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah. Okay. I have when I'm running 32 channels because I double mic a few things. I got an inner and an outer on my kick drums. I have double on the snare. No triggers. I used to have a few D drum on there, but we never used them. We thought put them on there in case I needed that that strike, that hit, you know what I mean, if I had a bad hit. But these days you don't need all that. I do most of all my editing here. Bad snare hit, replace it. If I ever mess something up really, really bad where I can't fix it, our sound engineer will help me out and fix it. Or I've even lately been giving it to Charlie, the kid who's doing live for me, because he runs a studio and he's real good at all that. So, man, here you go, kid, fix it all.
Yeah,
make me sound good.
Your problem now.
Yeah. So now he's got to do live and make me sound good on the records, so he can continue to have it sound good live.
That's a teamwork.
Yeah, teamwork. Like I said, we're team players. All this stuff is,
It's good to have a kind of gear rundown situation, just to people that is curious. And I think that brands and symbols are the same in Italian and in English, so don't need to translate to people.
Yeah.
Zildjian is Zildjian, paste is paste, Yamaha is Yamaha.
Yeah.
So a recording custom is also used in a lot of studio.
Yeah. Okay.
I for example, I love the acrylic sets, for example.
Yeah.
And but I got the chance to record some of my works with that Yamaha black recording custom in maple, I think, and really cool sound, and also a lot of versatile, because you can have different kind of sounds and situation, from light music to heavier music. So it's one of the choice of the major studios here in Italy to have the or Yamaha, or just have some Tamata stuff. But Yamaha is very good for the recording. In fact, this is called the recording custom. It's one of the most recorded drum kit ever. So, and the choice of rototoms, it's
Remo.
it's had to something like tribal to the drum kit, or just to have some Dave Lombardo tom situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's been like that.
I said Lombardo, not Canada this time.
It's like I said, I never would have thought I would have had put it in any Incantation records. I never heard the need for it. I used to have a small 8-inch tom and a 10-inch tom. I'm not using it right now. I wouldn't be able to hit it because I got the rototoms there. But it's I don't know. I just wanted to add something new in there, and I really like them, so I'm keeping them in there. I'm actually
something to have a fresh new sound to be.
Yeah, it's nice. You got something heavy going on normal, and then out of the blue you hear,
It's not like the Sepultura stuff. No. It's
always a long roll on it.
Okay. Okay, so for the last question, we want to pass the word to the Cattivo Maestro. Meanwhile, I want to say thank you, Kyle, again for your time.
You guys.
Absolutely fun interview, and we hope to host you again on Il Calice Nero, maybe when Incantation or your other project are going to release a new record.
Yeah.
You can also got in touch with Alan here, and so if you want to be hosted again, we have a pleasure to host you, because we are having a good time. And also thank you for your time, because we know that in Italy is afternoon, but in America is kind of in the morning, so mid-morning. And so again, thank you, Kyle, for your time. We pass the word to the Cattivo Maestro for the last question. Quindi, Maestro, ultima domanda.
Aspetta, traduci prima quello che ha detto, perché così almeno per i nostri
ha detto le marche della batteria, ha detto Yamaha Recording Custom, il rototom della Remo, piatti Zildjian e Paist, deve cambiare qualche piatto in giro, ha detto che utilizza delle Remo sabbiate, Ambassador monostrato, coated, esatto, sabbiate. Poi i rototom li utilizza non come Igor Cavalera, ma come tipo Dave Lombardo, che fa tutte le rullate. Insomma, abbiamo fatto gli idioti prima. Esatto, exactly. E poi dice che comunque lui ha la possibilità di aspetta, che cosa sta succedendo? La possibilità comunque di registrarsi, quindi non utilizza più trigger, ma fa tutto naturale, ha un'interfaccia da più di 30 canali, quindi utilizza molti microfoni. Tanto dice adesso i trigger non si utilizzano più perché tanto fa sound replacement con altre parti quando registra male, oppure chiede al batterista nuovo che anche lui uno studio diciamo da utilizzarsi le parti, quindi dai una mano, quindi non c'è bisogno più di stare tanto tempo sul retriggering. Infatti ce l'ho i trigger di drum, penso quelli rossi. You got the drum red shots, right? The triggers on the bass drum.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm not currently using them.
You do not. I'm saying that you got the triggers, but you don't use them anymore because you edit yourself. Or
I was always told they would be a nice like safety or a backup if something happened on another channel, but I never ended up using them. So I just stopped wasting the channels on them. That's just more work I gotta do.
ok, quindi lui utilizzava solamente i trigger come backup, però dice alla fine comunque non serve a niente, infatti li tiene nella borsa praticamente. Che dice al giorno d'oggi con tutta la tecnologia che abbiamo, fare retriggering per lui non serve, avendo questa situazione di studio. Può servire, per esempio, questo lo aggiungo io, per chi non ha uno studio attrezzato come quello di Kyle, quindi fa le registrazioni con i trigger. Però l'abbiamo già detto anche con Derek Roddy questa cosa, quindi è inutile. We spoke about trigger also with Derek Roddy in a previous episode. So basically we got two different
Derek.
two guys that have the same point of view, and basically that's metal but in a different way. You play that metal in a way, Derek's playing it. So it's cool to have the same point of view even if the drumming is different.
Yeah, sure. Boy, he's one of the most talented drummers. Oh my God, he's hands down.
His interview lasted 2 hours and a half for let you explain the situation going on. He talks a lot. By the way, a greeting to Derek if he's watching.
Sure. I haven't seen Derek for a little while now.
Basically, I translated a little bit and we talked about the gear a little bit, but for now, the last questions to the Maestro, again in Italian. We translate, answer, and retranslate, and then we can end this beautiful live stream. And again, thank you, Kyle, for being here with us.
It's been fun. It was my pleasure. I appreciate you guys, and I like being able to. I'm glad you guys asked stories, stuff that I haven't talked about in a long time. Makes me think and remember, anal cunt stuff, diabolical tour. I mean, holy crap, that you know what I mean.
Just to make a different interview, because a lot of interviews nowadays are. What about the last album, the last release? But we are fans, and we love music, and we love the scenario behind the music. So for us, it's always like this because we want to know. It's kind of we meet at the bar and drink together and talk about. Oh, do you remember that stuff? Do you remember that stuff? And we discuss together. Yeah. I don't know if you tasted the Italian espresso, but I think you.
Oh yeah, just a little bit. That's all you need.
Yeah, it was. Just a stupid question before the serious one of the Maestro. You have been in Italy. You traveled all around Italy because we are here from different parts of Italy. The Maestro is from Sardinia. I'm from Naples, and Francesco is from. Yeah, it's from the north side of Italy. So. What is your experience for Italian fans, venues, people, and everything?
I mean, it's one of the few countries where we've been fortunate just to come and do an Italian tour only. You know what I mean? So that says something right there, that the promoters and the fans, are passionate enough, because obviously there's not a whole lot of money to be made if, to fly in all of us just to do a couple shows in Italy. But, we want to do that for the fans, and the promoters, wanted it just as well. So it's very personal. It's always been a very warm welcome. And because even in the earlier years in the 90s, it was hard. Like it seemed like the Italian dates always got canceled if we were on a full European tour. And I know there was always some issues with your government and this and that. So it's just nice now to be able to go. And I'm glad my last tour was in Italy. I think we were there for a week. And for me, especially because I went to Argento's museum and Cozy was working it. Fuck, I can't even say it. Profondo Rosso. Is that how
Yeah,
you say it?
yeah.
And,
Deep red in English.
Yeah, so everybody
Yeah.
wanted to go and see the Coliseum and all that shit while we were rolling. We're like, me and Chuck's like, nope, we got our own plans. We're going over to the museum. So that was really fun. But the shows are always cool. And I like the food and I like the coffee as well. So that's always a plus. And yeah, you know.
You have some special memories because if as you said, your last tour was in Italy, right?
Yeah.
So let me translate this before this last question. Quindi ragazzi, lui è molto legato all'Italia perché ha fatto l'ultimo tour e dice che è stato molto bello non solo il mangiare, le persone, ma i promoter che hanno chiesto apposta di andare in Italia perché negli anni 90 venivano sempre cancellate alcune date in Italia, qualche problema, di solito si faceva solo la capatina a Milano e poi si saliva, insomma sappiamo che gli anni 90 non erano tantissimo floridi per la scena live in Italia da parte delle persone. Abbiamo avuto anche conferma da altri artisti che abbiamo avuto sul Calice Nero, quindi a lui piace tanto. E poi lui è andato a vedere il museo di Argento, mentre gli altri guardavano il Colosseo, lui è andato a vedere il museo di Argento, Profondo Rosso, tutte queste cose qua, perché lui è legato ovviamente a Dario Argento, ai film horror, e quindi ha fatto una sua diciamo una sua visita non tanto ai monumenti storici come il Colosseo o altre cose, ma proprio al museo di Dario Argento del cinema horror, eccetera eccetera. Maestro, scusami se ti ho rubato del tempo, facciamo l'ultima domanda, last question to Kyle.
Yep.
Prego maestro.
Allora Kyle, se rientriamo, allora facciamo due domande in una. Se ritorniamo indietro appunto negli anni 90, perché premo proprio quegli anni, che ora tra quegli anni 90 e adesso, quindi il nuovo millennio, quanto è cambiato anche creare un album death metal? Perché prima era più difficoltoso rispetto ad ora, anche per il meccanismo, quindi la tecnologia, ma allo stesso tempo anche per la distribuzione, perché all'inizio negli anni 90 c'erano appunto le zine cartacee, webzine ce n'erano veramente pochissime, era un'utopia appunto delle webzine, ma allo stesso tempo le zine cartacee quanto riuscivano a spingere anche una demo, anche se non c'era appunto Kyle, una demo degli Incantation, ma anche una demo in generale del death metal. E allo stesso tempo l'ultima domanda e si chiude appunto la bevanda. Quale sarebbe la bevanda perfetta, alcolica, non alcolica, amara, dolce, che riuscirebbe ad entrare all'interno del sound degli Incantation, e anche il piatto preferito di Kyle che ci vuole svelare?
Okay, so going back to the 90s and comparing those times to the ones we are having today, how did it change about making a death metal record in terms of technology and distribution? Talking about zines, for example, how did they manage to push, let's say, just for example, a demo, maybe an Incantation demo, to the people that were reading to those zines at the time? And this is the first question. So if you want to reply to this part, then I have the second part of the question.
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, obviously we didn't have internet, social medias and all that. So tape trading and fanzines was your source, for new bands. And that's just what you would do. You would tape trade. You would, it's hard to think how it started, like how you got, I can't recall my very first pen pal that I would trade with, and you start with that, and then that friend had friends, and you know what I mean, and then it went like that, and you got your first fanzine. I guess it would have started with however you got your first fanzine, and you replied, you're like, oh boy, that band looks cool, contact them, and they'd be interested in a trade, or you'd buy their $3, cassette tape, and it just built like that, and so that was a lot of networking, and when I met John, he did so much mail. Like we would spend on tour writing tons and tons of letters, and we would make Incantation newsletters, and it would always just describe what tour we're on, what the future plans was for the next couple months. And we would just mail. I mean, we'd have hundreds, we would sit on our downtime and just mail all those out, get off tour, go to the mailbox, and just collecting, all these new fans. And that's just how you networked. And, we were fortunate to have, Relapse. We had good record distribution, so that then got the records out as well. And they obviously were doing the same thing on a larger level. Just they started off with the same way though, with fanzine, and that's how John had met Bill and Matt from the original days of Relapse, just through networking and fanzine and being fans and all that. So how does that differ now? I mean, that barely exists. I mean, I know you guys, it takes fans like yourselves that have fanzine, because you still have a paper zine, right? You're still, you guys have.
We have a kind of 1 year almanac, like 200 pages of fanzine.
But still,
the Maestro is doing all the stuff.
Yeah. Okay. And then doing these podcasts, all this, or interviews, and whatever all these are called. These are the new tape trading, or the new fanzines. Tape trading doesn't exist anymore. It's too fast paced now. There's it's too easy to get the info, and that's why I think it'd be really hard to start a new band. I think any band that starts off now and actually succeeds or whatever, you have something golden, because to stand out, so many people could just click at a million bands right now, and to have yours stand out special, that's something else. And even for myself, starting Shed the Skin, not even 10 years ago, it's hard to put a new band out there, regardless of my history and the other guys in the band's history. Yeah, we've been around doing it forever, but to push a new band on people, it's hard. And I'm too old to do that much promotion. I can't spend every minute of my free time writing letters and pushing the band.
Just an email and that's it.
Yeah, even if I get the time to do that, I mean, life intervenes. You know what I mean? I have family and kids and careers and shit too.
Okay, so I will be translating this part of the question, then I will make the second one directly to you. Praticamente ha detto che negli anni 90 comunque si andava avanti molto con appunto scambi di cassette famose, quindi si era creata una sorta di web, chiamiamolo così, quindi una rete di contatti dove appunto anche tramite le fanzine si scambiava cassette, si contattava i gruppi, quindi c'era tutta questa sorta di approccio molto più diretto con i gruppi. Parlava anche lui del periodo Incantation, quando c'erano ancora le lettere effettive che mandavano ai fan come newsletter, che passavano tutto il tempo libero che avevano a scrivere lettere, uscivano dal bus una volta finito il tour e spedivano centinaia e centinaia di queste lettere in giro, ed è una roba che ha detto che purtroppo ora manca, nel senso che ora è talmente tutto accessibile che diventa difficile anche per chi magari ha già storia, perché ha parlato del suo altro progetto Shed the Skin, che comunque è nato una decina di anni fa, che appunto nonostante lui suoni negli Immolation, anche la storia non negli Immolation, negli Incantation, perdona, pardon me, I fucked up there.
A little bit of lapsus.
Praticamente questo ha portato a non avere magari chissà quanto del successo che si poteva avere una volta. Questo principalmente. Adesso passo all'ultima domanda.
Okay.
The last question is, if you have to pick a beverage, alcoholic or not alcoholic, bitter or sweet, that can be the one defining what incantation is about. What would it be? And also, if you have to pick your favorite food plate, what would it be?
My favorite food plate?
Yep.
I'm sorry, repeat the question. I thought you were still
No.
translating.
No, I did the translation. I was actually giving you the second part of the question.
Okay, say it again.
So the question is, if you have to pick an alcoholic or non-alcoholic beverage
Oh, okay.
that can be paired to incantation, and this time I got it right, what would it be? And also, if you have to pick your favorite food, what would it be?
So compare an alcoholic beverage to the band.
That's why the podcast is called the Black Calice, you know. The drink and music stuff going together.
Well, first of all, did you know that incantation has a what do they call it? A mead. You know what mead is? It's like a wine.
Yeah,
You know what it?
yeah,
One
kinda.
second.
Aspettate che mo arriva la bomba, insomma. Solo per voi,
ragazzi, 2 ore di intervista, 2 ore. Sapete
tra
cosa vuol
l'altro
dire?
in questo momento 0 persone stanno su YouTube, quindi si perdono questa chicca finale, ma se la rivedranno dopo.
Lasciamo perdere.
It's
Great.
Fantastic.
Great.
Yeah, it's like a wine. This Brimminghorn brewery or meadery, it's called. Yeah, they just did a limited. I think a couple of years ago it came out, but it's pretty cool. I mean, I don't. It's really sweet. I don't like sweet drinks too much, but it was definitely really cool to have. But you know, I'm more of a bourbon guy. You know, Chuck and I drink bourbon. John doesn't drink. But when he does drink, he'll drink whiskey, but he don't drink very much at all. And then Luke will he's a beer drinker. So I don't know. I think the band, we're a bourbon band. I'll say that. But did you also say a food as well, or just
Yeah.
Or
maybe your favorite in general, if you don't want to pair it with the band.
We're carnivores. You know, we are not. We are meat eaters. You know, we all of us just love a good steak. I think we're like a meat and potato kind of band, because that also describes the band's music, because you know, we're not fancy. We don't do all this frills. I mean, I know when we had Sonny in the band, you know, he did some crazy leads and stuff, you know, but that was only as a recent, you know. Majority incantation is a meat and potato kind of guy. Like that's your primitive, that's your caveman, that's just, you know. So I would say that's the kind of the food, you know, just hands in, you know. So I don't know if you can do that with spaghetti and meatballs very well, huh?
That's so appropriate, I think. Praticamente ha detto che per quanto riguarda una bevanda che può essere associata agli incantation, può essere appunto il Goat's Blood.
Yeah.
Ok, il Goat's Blood, che è un vino che è stato prodotto in edizione limitata per loro, solo che a lui personalmente non piace troppo perché lo sente troppo dolce per i suoi gusti. E ha detto che comunque lui di per sé generalmente sarebbe più un tipo da bourbon, lui e Chuck. E John di per sé non beve, però quando beve lui è più, ad esempio, un tipo da whisky. Per quanto riguarda un cibo, per sé lui ha detto siamo carnivori, quindi siamo primitivi, siamo dei caveman, come ha detto. Quindi, quindi colpendo, eccetera, eccetera, ha detto che siamo tipi da bistecche e patate, diciamo.
The best interview ever.
I can imagine if we did this at night and I was really drinking, it would get more silly.
Oh god, or maybe late evening.
Yeah.
Would have been great. E comunque sì, appunto, bistecche e patate.
Scusami.
Perfetto.
Visto che non c'è nessuno in linea, sinceramente
facciamo un attimo salutare Kyle, perché se ne deve andare a lavorare o fare qualcosa. Kyle, basically we will all of us will continue for a little bit, but if you have to go
thank you very
away,
much.
we want to greet you and make you a virtual hug to your time. It was a really fun interview, and we hope that we can stay in touch for the future.
Yeah, sounds
not only the zine, but also the podcast here. And we are honored again to sorry if I repeat myself a lot of times, but it's great to share memories and ask about the new stuff, the old stuff, and in general all this stuff together.
Yeah.
And of course this live stream will be on YouTube, so the people that are watching now can check it later. I will put also marks with all the questions so people can go back and forth and rewatch it. But
I hope they have 2 hours available.
yeah. And basically we will let you go away if you have to do, of course, your own personal stuff. So from Il Calice Nero, a big thank you. And we will stay in touch for the next time. We are also hyped to have you again.
Yeah, I'd love to come back. It was fun for sure, guys. I appreciate it, and thanks for the support. And we'll do this again. And good luck. And let me know, and I'll share this video and stuff.
Yeah. Basically, you can. I've sent you the request, but you can get in touch with Alan too.
Okay,
no problem. And again, thank you,
all right, guys.
Very much, Kyle.
You got a fucking great interview with the Kyle.
Fantastic.
There's my copy of the After Party Massacre I was telling you about.
So what I can say more? Well, what you can ask for more, Kyle's here, and we had a great time. So guys, please check out Kyle Incantation and all the stuff. Just Google Incantation. You have to know them if you like that metal.
Yeah.
Don't play with this thing. And basically, thank you again, Kyle. If you want to turn off the stream, no problem.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna log out. Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Again. Thanks.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for your time.
Cool.
Hello, Kyle.
All right.
Bye.
Ok, ragazzi, abbiamo avuto un'intervista incredibile con Kyle, due ore di intervista.
Sinceramente, non è per rompere il cazzo, però ragazzi, io non capisco una cosa. Se si portano gruppi grossi, quasi quasi non va bene. Se il gruppo è gruppi piccoli non va bene, sinceramente parlando, non capisco il perché poi sono rimasti zero.
No, beh, però su Facebook quella differenza che c'è stata.
Sì,
ma infatti la cosa bella è che sta entrando la gente che se n'è andato Kyle, questo.
Però sinceramente ragazzi è stata fatta anche pubblicità, cioè è stata fatta molta pubblicità. Mi dispiace che avete perso una bella puntata, però ringrazio a tutti, perché tanto ci sono sempre che persone che supportano, appunto, come Gaetano, Nicola, Nico e tutti gli altri, Giulia,
Tony,
Federica, tutti veramente ringrazio.
Anche Nico, per esempio, ci sta vedendo.
Sì, ringrazio, infatti lo salutiamo in diretta, un abbraccio. Saluto il mio staff prezioso, il Margrave Anarca e il fuori di testa Adimer, ma fuori di testa in maniera amichevole, ci mancherebbe altro, massimo rispetto per il suo operato. Non potevo scegliere il meglio, ottime traduzioni, ottime domande, ottime risposte. Veramente, Kyle è stato veramente
Ma poi,
delizioso.
amici, abbiamo delle testimonianze del periodo d'oro degli Incantation, che l'ha detto pure
Certo.
Kyle durante l'intervista, che ha
Anal
svelato,
Kant, addirittura.
ha svelato solamente oggi, gli è piaciuto anche questo mood. Quindi ragazzi, se vi interessa, noi siamo su piattaforma principale, su YouTube, sempre il Calice Nero. Twitch viene usato un po' come contenitore, perché non lo usiamo,
Come
non lo usiamo
contorno,
tanto, però
diciamo.
l'abbiamo... Sì, Twitch non lo usiamo tanto, ma l'abbiamo deciso di sperimentarlo, quindi ci vedrete anche se lo curiamo in maniera, diciamo, molto più superficiale rispetto a YouTube.
Certo.
Per
E poi su
completezza,
Facebook
comunque.
sì. E poi il Facebook di Volt Lab, che viene utilizzato per contenitore, che poi mandiamo in differita sul Calice Nero e tutto il resto. Come
Comunque,
sempre, ad ogni intervista, per proporre progetti, musica e tutto il resto, redazione.ilcalicenero@gmail.com. E ci vedremo presto per un altro
allora, ci vediamo
episodio.
il 9 di appunto a marzo dalle 21 alle 22 con appunto gli Omsel Vareg, un'altra band molto interessante from Italy, e poi ci saranno altri annunci improvvisi perché poi partiamo verso
Non
l'estero.
solo band, perché poi il 10 marzo abbiamo Maxi Antorno, Rebord Tapes e
Mi raccomando, non
Apocalypse
perdertela, non perdertela
Agency,
perché
quindi parliamo di Le Tapes, che sono state citate molto in questa cosa. E poi stiamo lavorando, anche in base agli impegni, diciamo, musicali di noi tre, che comunque abbiamo i nostri progetti, stiamo lavorando per portare voi degli episodi particolari legati alla vita on the road che si sta lì sbloccando.
in
Detto
poche
ciò,
parole il Calice Nero diventerà estivo, seguiteci, non dico altro.
seguiteci, esatto. Abbiamo
Buon
tante idee
weekend.
e mi raccomando, scriveteci e fateci sapere cosa possiamo migliorare, perché sicuramente c'è
Certo.
tanto da lavorare ancora. Quindi ringrazio anch'io Francesco, Adimer
Grazie
e
a voi.
Alan, il Cattivo Maestro. È sempre un piacere fare live insieme, ragazzi.
Il
Non
grande
vi posso
spettacolo
dire,
non finisce mai, non si
non vi
ferma
posso dire
mai.
buonanotte perché siamo di pomeriggio, quindi buona continuazione di weekend a tutti. Un abbraccio,
E il
alla
codice?
prossima puntata. Il codice è sempre 000. Ok. Ciao a tutti amici, alla prossima.